Discover the sinister secret that haunts this terrifying painting. What was exposed after 30 years. The estate sale sign flickered like a beacon of doom at the end of the street. Emily cautiously approached the rickety display, a chill dancing down her spine. She didn't know it yet, but the unsettling painting she was about to buy, a crumbling church entangled in sinister vines, would unravel her quiet life in ways she could never imagine. Who would have guessed this cursed canvas was hiding decades of darkness beneath its surface? The painting, once a charming addition to her modest living room, quickly transformed into an eyesore of despair. She found herself waking up in the dead of night, a clammy sweat smothering her. Strange whispers crept into her dreams, taunting her with a presence that wrapped around her like ice. She could swear that the painting exuded a vile energy, shadows shifting within its frame, clawing at her sanity. The church's facade grew darker, crumbling, as if it were pulling Emily and her family into its haunting grasp. It was a summer unlike any other. Kids filled the streets, laughter echoing against white picket fences, and neighbors waved warmly. Yet, deep inside Emily's chest, unease festered. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, she felt the atmosphere change. The laughter of Sam and Lily turned hollow, swallowed by a silence so profound it felt deafening. Goosebumps prickled her skin as her eyes darted around, searching for the source of her discomfort. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emily could feel the town's secrets encroaching, like icy fingers pressing against her throat. The whispers grew louder, echoing her fears. Was she simply losing her mind, or was she awakening something wicked? Desperate for information, she scoured the local library, each page revealing a twisted history woven within the fabric of her town. Families had vanished, lives ripped apart, their stories buried beneath layers of painted smiles. Each name brought a wave of dread, tightening around her heart as she realized her community was but a facade disguising an undercurrent of evil. The day her children vanished was etched in relentless horror. One minute they were playing in the backyard, and the next, they were gone, as if snatched into thin air. Panic gripped her like a vice, pushing her to her neighbors, but their responses were chillingly detached, their smiles steeped in something darker. When she finally turned to the police, they brushed her off. Kids wander, they said. Give it time, they assured her, as her heart pounded in despair. Emily stood alone, her pulse a wild drum in her ears. She was lost in a labyrinth of horror, not just from the painting, but from the people who she thought she could trust. As she faced the night, searching for answers in the darkness, she found herself teetering on the edge of a perilous truth. Would she embrace the lurking evil, or could she find a way to reclaim her family's future before the painting and her neighbors swallowed them whole? The night pressed in around Emily like a suffocating blanket. Her breath came in ragged gasps, adrenaline coursing through her veins as shadows danced in the corners of her dimly lit home. Was it just her imagination, or could the painting observe her every move? The air crackled with an electric tension, and she could feel every heartbeat ringing in her ears like a warning bell. With no sign of Sam and Lily, dread gnawed at her insides. The sun barely filtered through the windows now, casting eerie shapes across the walls. It was as if the whole world had succumbed to the darkness that seeped from the painting. She forced herself to go to the children's room. Their toys sprawled across the floor, untouched since they vanished. How long had it been? Days blurred into one another, making time feel like a cruel joke. Desperation urged Emily forward, her fingers trembling as she reached for the painting. It felt cold under her touch, sending a shock up her spine. She stared into the depths of the canvas. The church seemed alive, the tangled vines pulsing as if they were breathing, rejecting her intrusion. The whispers picked up once more, a maddening chorus in her mind. They coaxed and taunted her, promising answers if she just looked deeper. Who are you? What do you want? She shouted, her voice breaking the silence that enveloped her home. The whispers quieted, replaced instead by a deafening thrum that resonated from the depths of the painting. The darkness shifted, swirling into shapes that seemed to form faces, twisted and anguished. Emily stumbled back, fear flooding her like ice water poured over her heart. Then came the screams echoing, hollow, resonating through her very soul. They were cries of despair, of loss, of children. Suddenly, there was a soft thud from the backyard. Hope flickered briefly within Emily, urging her to check. Perhaps Sam and Lily had returned. She dashed toward the sound, her feet carrying her faster than reason could process. The back door creaked ominously as she shoved it open, revealing the dense shadows lurking outside. The air was thick with anticipation. Emily squinted into the darkness, her pulse pounding loudly. Sam! Lily! Are you there? Only silence answered, wrapping around her like a predator stalking its prey. But something flickered at the edge of the trees, a glimmer of white shirt. Her kids' shirts. Emily's heart raced. Guys! I'm coming. She stepped forward, her legs trembling as she crossed into the backyard. The moonlight barely penetrated the trees, painting everything in a ghostly glow. A chill ran down her spine as she reached the shadowy border of the woods. With shaky breaths, she called out again, please come back. The wind picked up, rustling the leaves, and then out from the woods, near the old church, emerged two figures. Dull eyes stared back at her. A familiar face pranced too closely to a dilapidated structure overgrown with dark vines. Those weren't her children. Mommy, they cried softly, but their voices held an unsettling echo. Each syllable dripped like honey but carried a twist of something truly unfathomable. Emily stumbled back, panic clawing at her throat. This wasn't right. They weren't her kids. The painting loomed in her mind, the realization crashing down like frigid water. As the twisted forms approached, something in her gut screamed, escape. A fleeting thought broke through the chaos. Was the painting the key to both her family's whereabouts and the town's horrific secret? She turned on her heels, sprinting back toward the house. Behind her, a cacophony of chilling laughter erupted, mixing with those cries of despair, and she felt the cold fingers of the night reaching for her. Would she uncover the truth before the darkness consumed everything? Or would it drag her into its maddening depths, leaving her forever lost? The curse had only just begun to unravel. Emily flew through the back door, slamming it shut behind her. Heart pounding, she leaned against the frame, her breath quick and shallow. The laughter from the figures outside echoed like a macabre symphony, their taunts lingering in the air. They played with her mind, tugging her toward the brink of madness. Just a trick of the light, she whispered to herself, trying to drown out the fear. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. The painting had unleashed something dark and hungry. Steeling herself, she made her way to the living room, eyes darting around every shadow. The air thickened, oppressive and heavy, as she hesitated before the cursed canvas. What had it shown her? What had it done to her family? Questions spiraled through her mind, but one stood out, one simple word that echoed louder than the others. Why? The whispers intensified now, a hissing chorus spilling from the painting's depths. Emily clenched her fists, scanning the room for any sign of protection. She needed to figure out how to fight back. All at once, she remembered the church. There had to be records, some form of documentation that could explain everything. Gathering her courage, she dashed toward the front door. The wood creaked, complaining about the shifting weights of panic and fear. Outside, the moonlight bathed everything in an eerie glow. The path to the church felt longer than ever, shadows clawing at the edges of her vision. As she crossed the yard, a flicker of movement caught her eye. The two figures stood just beyond the tree line, now mingling with the trees, their features shifting like smoke. The familiarity of their faces twisted her insides, a sickening reminder of what she'd lost. Sam! Lily! She called, desperation clawing at her throat. But they didn't respond. They waited, silent, their smiles stretched too wide, eyes glinting with malice. With each step, the laughter morphed into lament, layered with sadness and rage. It beat against her, pressing her to turn back, to give in, but she wouldn't. She couldn't. The decrepit church loomed ahead, its form twisted and rotten, vines spiraling up its sides like skeletal fingers. Emily hesitated, staring at the large oak doors that seemed to breathe. She pushed them open and stepped inside, the air thick with the scent of decay and mildew. Inside, shadows flickered against the stained glass, the figures captured in eternal agony. They seemed to cry out, their distorted faces pressing against the glass as if trying to escape. Emily staggered back, heart racing wildly. The whispers curled around her again, more insistent now, mingling with the darker memories the church cloaked. She continued deeper into the sanctuary, drawn by instinct. It was there, at the altar, that she spotted the dusty old ledger. She felt its weight in her chest as she approached, the pages trembling under her touch. What dark secrets lay within? As she opened it, a cold chill swept through her, and the room began to spin. Each name she read felt like a knife twisting in her gut. Children, missing for years, all connected to the very thing that had stolen her own. Suddenly, a loud crash ricocheted off the walls, making her jump. The laughter had returned, more sinister than before. She turned, eyes wide, panic igniting all over again. Something was coming for her, something from that painting. Was it after her? Or after what was hidden in the pages she held? She clutched the ledger tighter, its secrets weighing heavy on her mind. Would this knowledge save her? Or was it all part of the trap? The air hummed, pregnant with possibilities. But one truth burned brightly: Emily was deep in the clutches of a darkness that wanted to reclaim its lost playthings. And as shadows swirled closer, she had no idea how far she would have to go to find the light, or if she could rise above the consuming darkness. Would she make it out alive? The next moment could seal her fate. Emily's heart raced as the ledger slipped from her fingers, crashing to the floor like a thunderclap in the hollowed church. The whispers grew louder, drowning out her rational thoughts, wrapping around her mind like a vice. She could feel her grip on reality slipping. "Get a hold of yourself," she muttered, shaking her head as if to clear the fog. But every instinct screamed at her to flee. The words from the ledger, children gone without a trace, it all pointed to something beyond comprehension, buried deep within this cursed place. She had to know. Yet, as she bent to retrieve the book, the laughter outside clawed at her ears again. It seemed close now, almost intimate, like a poisoned comfort. She couldn't keep ignoring it. With trembling hands, she flipped through the pages. Names upon names flashed before her. Emily's breath hitched at one entry, her daughter's name mingled among the others, as if mocking her desperation. "Lily," she gasped, the name ripping through her like barbed wire. Nothing made sense, yet everything plunged deeper into clarity. The church was a cradle of horrors, a gathering place for lost souls drawn to the painting. Each name felt like a ghost, each ghost a piece of her shattered reality. From the corner of her eye, the stained glass seemed to shimmer, the figures depicted writhing, as if trying to break free. Sweat trickled down Emily's spine, the idea coursing through her mind: they had all been taken. She needed to escape before she became one of them. But the moment she rose, something shifted. The shadows elongated, unexplained dread pooling like tar at her feet. A sudden gust of wind slammed the heavy doors shut, rattling the windows. The darkness came alive, swirling toward her like a storm, each swirl a whisper promising knowledge, power, and despair. "Leave," now the whispers hissed, echoing with urgency. A bead of icy dread pooled in her stomach. Did they want her to leave? Or did they want to lure her in, to join the cacophony of lost voices? With adrenaline pumping through her veins, she bolted down the aisle toward the exit, each stride heavy, as if she were running through molasses. As she reached the doors, her hands gripped the metal handle tightly. She twisted, but the doors refused to budge. Panic surged, Emily's heartbeat resonated like a war drum in her ears. Behind her, laughter snaked through the air, seductive and sinister, pulling her back with invisible threads. "It's too late." The voice chilled her to the bone. It wasn't outside, it was inside the church, a low murmur emanating from the shadows pooling at the altar. She turned slowly, fear shedding into raw terror. Figures emerged, distorted and grotesque, faces she almost recognized. They stepped toward her, smiles twisted, eyes gleaming with the same malice she'd seen outside. In that moment, she realized the truth: they weren't just spirits of the past, they were memories, echoes of lost children clamoring for release. They were trapped, just like her. "Join us." Emily felt the walls pressing in, the weight of the ledger dragging her to the floor. She couldn't breathe. In the midst of the chaos, something inside her flickered a spark of defiance. "No!" she yelled, forcing her legs to move again. With every ounce of willpower, she threw herself against the doors. They shuddered under her weight, just as a scream erupted from the depths of the church. Then silence. A heart-stopping, deafening silence. Emily's eyes shot back to the altar. A figure stood there, cloaked in the darkness, its features shrouded. Tension hung in the air like the stillness before a heavy storm. "Stay or run," it whispered, voice penetrating her bones. She felt the ledger slip from her fingers again, heavy with foreboding secrets. If she stayed, she'd seek the truth, but at what cost? With second thoughts colliding in her mind, Emily's fate hung in the balance. Would the desire for understanding pull her deeper into the void? Or could she shatter the cycle before it consumed her whole? Outside, the laughter resumed, echoing her dilemma, taunting her. Choices. Emily's heart thundered as the silence wrapped around her like a shroud. The cloaked figure at the altar seemed to pulse with darkness, its silhouette shifting like smoke against the dim light of the church. She fought against the roar in her ears, desperate for clarity amidst the chaos. "Run!" the word crept through her mind like a poison, curling around her thoughts, urging her to flee. But another force tugged at her, compelling her closer, exploring the origins of the haunting laughter and the ledger that had dismantled her sanity. "Who are you?" she managed to croak, each word a struggle. The figure took a slow step forward, shadows cascading around it like a black waterfall. "Your guide," it hissed, the voice a sharp blend of childlike giggles and something ancient, something very, very wrong. The air thickened, suffocating her resolve. "I can show you everything." Emily's instincts screamed at her to run, but her feet remained rooted in place. Curiosity battled terror within her. What had happened to the children? Each name in the ledger echoed through her mind, leading her deeper into the nightmare. "Come closer," the figure beckoned, an unnatural draw laced into its tone. She took a hesitant step forward, compelled not just by the darkness but by the urgency to uncover whatever truth lay buried here. As she approached, details sharpened. The figure's face seemed to solidify, a grotesque mask of familiarity. "You know these children, don't you?" it whispered, tilting its head, eyes gleaming with an anticipation that made the hairs on her neck stand up. No, Emily's breath caught as she recognized a glimpse of those she'd loved, but that was impossible. This was madness. She tried to shake the visions swirling in her mind, but they settled deeper. "Lily, she's with us now." "Join her," the figure urged, gesturing to the expanding shadows. Emily's hand instinctively moved to the pendant around her neck, the last gift from her daughter. "No!" she shouted, fierce with defiance now. "I want to let you take me." A sudden burst of laughter erupted from the shadows, vibrating her very bones. They shrieked and howled, calling out names that mixed with the echoes in Emily's heart. The walls pulsed, the atmosphere thickening like an impending storm, the whispers crescendoing into a cacophony. Behind her, the doors continued to mock her. Each shove against them felt hopeless, wrapped in a vice of despair. Emily's eyes darted back to the altar in desperation. Could she confront the thing that called itself her guide? The shadows shifted again, forming a path that led straight to the altar. Each movement felt like the past was urging her forward, arms extended, beckoning for recognition, for release. "Stay with us," each syllable wrapped around her, and the vision of her daughter's face haunted her consciousness. She could almost see Lily standing there, fragile and delicate, a faint glow drawing her in. The laughter twisted around her heart in a torturous embrace. "Make your choice," the figure demanded, its voice laced with disdain. The laughter surged again, bubbling with malice and longing. Emily took a deep breath. She could feel it unraveling. Her heart raced, memories flooding her mind like fire. Every moment led to this. Could she trust the shadows? Could she risk everything for a heaping pile of anguish? "I'm not afraid of you," she said, though doubt crept into her heart. But as the shadows lunged, encompassing her, the last whisper shattered her moment of resolve. "Find her, save the lost." The darkness enveloped her, pulling her down into its depths, the sensation like claws raking at her skin. And then, she fell an abyss of memories, laughter, and screams enwrapped her as she vanished into the void, the ledger spiraling into the shadows behind her. What lay hidden in the blackness? What revelation awaited in the confrontation with her past, the very thing keeping the children lost? Curiosity began to spark again, igniting like a match in darkness. Would Emily discover the sinister secret that had evaded her grasp for so long? Or would she unravel in the depths, swallowed whole by what the church hid? The darkness settled around Emily, thick as molasses, clinging to her skin and chilling her bones. She tumbled through the void, sensations blurring, moments of light and shadow interspersed with the distant echoes of laughter and crying. It felt as if she was falling through layers of despair, each more suffocating than the last. Suddenly, she landed hard on a floor that felt damp and cold against her palms. Gasping for breath, she blinked, attempting to make sense of her surroundings. Flickering lights danced across her vision, revealing a cavernous chamber, walls lined with jagged stones that seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting like a living creature. Her pulse quickened as voices fluttered around her like restless spirits. They whispered of loss and longing, pulling at her heartstrings. "Emily, save us!" Each name they spoke clawed its way into her thoughts, stitching together a tapestry of missing children that churned in her mind, creating an urgent need to remember. "Lily!" She managed to shout, but the name was swallowed by a wave of bitter, spiteful laughter echoing back at her. The reverberation sang of hopes crushed and dreams devoured. The chamber hummed with energy, shifting shadows playing tricks on her eyes. Faces flickered in the corners of her vision, remnants of innocence lost, childlike glee twisted into something darker. Were they merely figments of her mind, or could they be the children she sought? She staggered to her feet, her heart both pounding in terror and igniting with a fierce determination. "Show yourselves!" Emily yelled, her voice shaking, barely resonating against the mass of darkness. As if her words had conjured the very essence of the night, the shadows reluctantly parted, revealing an altar much like the one before, but this one was stained with age and memories too painful to bear. In the center lay a tarnished mirror, the surface swirling ominously. Compelled by an unseen force, she approached it, each step heavy and laden with foreboding. As she neared, the whispers intensified, urging her to look within. With a trembling hand, she reached out to touch the glass, an electric pulse running through her fingers upon contact. Suddenly, the mirror shimmered, transforming into an image of her daughter, Lily, illuminated in a soft, warm light. Her laugh, sweet and haunting, filled the air, wrapping around Emily, pulling at her heart with the familiar tug of maternal love. "Mommy!" Lily's voice echoed, filled with innocence. It drew her closer, and Emily felt the longing wash over her, threatening to consume her. But the shadowy presence behind her slithered, reminding her that this vision was but a fleeting shadow amid the malevolence that lingered. "What do you want?" Emily cried, her voice strained with desperation. "Where are the lost children?" "Save them, Mommy," Lily whispered, the spectral brightness fading, replaced with a haunting darkness that crept into Emily's heart. The image splintered, revealing the other children's faces, their expressions etched with terror and sorrow. A sudden jolt shot through her, and the remnants of these lost souls surged toward her, begging for salvation. "Help us! They wailed, their cries merging into a harmonized scream that echoed the anguish of forgotten loves. Emily staggered back. She was trapped between the past and the present, the flickering images tearing at her already breaking spirit. What was this abomination, conjured from her memories? Would saving them mean risking her only bond with Lily? A throbbing pain in her temple demanded her focus. The ledger she had seen before hovered in her mind, its pages filled with secrets. What if reading the names could unlock the solution? With newfound determination, she backed away from the mirror, searching for its edges and the ledger, hoping it was lost within the shadows of the void. Find me. Save us. The voices grew wilder, swirling like a storm, an ominous promise cloaked in desperation. Was it possible she could bridge this chasm of despair? But what kind of price would it demand? Her resolve solidified. I will find a way, she vowed, as the chamber disintegrated around her, dissolving into ink like droplets of panic. What awaited her next? Another layer of darkness, or perhaps a flicker of hope? Only one thing was certain, she was not done fighting yet. The sudden quiet fell, thick as fog, engulfing her again. But what awaited her in that kingdom of shadows? Would she uncover the truth behind the cursed ledger? Emily stumbled, disoriented by the abrupt silence. The oppressive weight of the darkness pressed in, and she felt a cold sweat bead on her forehead. The fading whispers clamored for her attention, ebbing and flowing like a tide of despair. Where are you? She breathed, panic tightening around her throat. The chamber morphed, the cold walls contracting, closing in on her. She could almost feel the forgotten children reaching out, their tiny hands brushing against her skin like a chilling breeze. Then, just beyond the veil of shadow, a glimmer shimmered, a silhouette moving just out of reach. Emily's heart raced. Was it another illusion? Or a manifestation of the children's souls? Desperate to know, she pushed forward, instincts guiding her toward the flicker, her senses on high alert. Lily, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Suddenly, the darkness peeled back, revealing a narrow corridor lined with flickering candles that cast ghostly shadows on the walls. It felt both inviting and perilous. The air hung thick with an acrid smell, like burnt offerings. She hesitated. That it was there, among the low flames, that she saw it, the ledger, resting on a rough-hewn table at the end of the corridor. It beckoned her, an ethereal glow pulsating through its dusty cover, as if alive and hungry. Could it really hold the answers she sought? She took a breath, steeling herself, and stepped into the corridor. Each tentative footfall echoed, and the whispers grew louder, morphing into a chorus of pleading. Help us, save us! They spiraled into a cacophony, a frenzied plea that tore at her insides, but the candles flickered in response, casting a warm golden hue that felt false amid the cold shadows. She pressed on, driven by the memories of Lily, the faces of the other lost children spinning through her mind like autumn leaves in a storm. When she reached the table, the ledger's surface was smooth under her trembling fingers. Heart hammering, she opened it, and a rush of chill air enveloped her. The pages were filled with names, each inscribed in an elegant script, stained the color of dried blood. They were names she recognized, children's names. From the community, from her own neighborhood. Why? She whispered, confusion swirling with fear. Suddenly, the air thickened. Shadows erupted from the walls, spiraling into a vortex of darkness that pulled at her. No! Get back! She shouted, but the shadows were relentless, closing in like a tidal wave. A single name leaped out from the pages, glowing with a fierce intensity: Lily. Anguish lanced through Emily's heart. Lily! She yelled, I will save you. In that desperation, she felt an unexpected surge of power course through her. The candlelight flared, illuminating her surroundings. The shadows hissed, recoiling as if in pain, swirling violently. What do you want? Emily cried out, rage mixing with her fear. The ledger began to shake, the pages vibrating as if an unseen force battled for control. Names blurred and faded, replaced by cries of the lost. Save us! Save us! They pleaded. Emily was losing ground. A paralyzing dread washed over her, yet at that moment she caught a glimpse in the corner of her eye a figure lurking in the shadows, eyes glinting like daggers in the darkness. "Who are you?" she screamed. The figure stepped closer, revealing a twisted smile that sent a jolt of terror right into her gut. "Oh, you really think you can save them?" it taunted, a voice smooth and chilling. "This ledger, it demands a sacrifice." Emily's mind raced. What did it mean? What was the true cost? The whispers morphed into shrieks as the room quaked under the weight of what was left unsaid. She had to act. But as the shadows lunged, tendrils of darkness coiling around her limbs, the question hung heavy in the air: would she be the one to pay the price? The flickering candles dimmed as the figure leaned closer, its voice a whisper that grazed her ear. "Choose wisely, dear Emily, time is running out. Or they will all be lost forever." What would she sacrifice to uncover the truth? What awaited her in the depths of this nightmare? Emily felt the cold edges of despair encircle her, each breath a struggle against the shadows tightening their grip. A relentless whisper filled the air, taunting her, echoing the figure's earlier words. "A sacrifice, what will it be?" She fought to knock the fear down, focusing instead on Lily's name, the only light in an infinite void. "I'll save you, I swear it," she shouted against the enveloping darkness. But as if the shadows themselves were mocking her resolve, a thunderous roar erupted, trembling the very ground beneath her. The ledger flew open, pages flaring wildly, and the names erupted from the depths, swirling into the air, merging with the darkness that consumed her. How many children had been taken? How many lives sacrificed? The twisted figure laughed, a cacophony of cruel delight. "Do you even know what you're asking for? Every name has a price." Emily's heart pounded. She could scarcely think, but the desperation for Lily cut through the haze. "I'll give anything. Just tell me how to bring her back." The darkness paused momentarily, and the shadows pulsed, almost waiting. "Anything?" the figure mused, tilting its head as if savoring her despair. "The great thing about prices, they're often paid in blood, dear Emily." The words hung heavy, thrumming in her ears. A glimmer of hesitation flickered within her, but every face of the lost flashed before her eyes, their pleading expressions urging her to press on, to fight through the suffocating dread, yet the uncertainty gnawed at her. "What kind of blood?" she managed to whisper, her voice raw and shattered. The figure's smile widened. "Yours, perhaps. Or would you sacrifice another? Such a delightful choice awaits you." With each second, the whispers escalated into screams, rising to a fever pitch. Emily locked eyes with the figure, willing to uncover the truth. "I won't let them suffer for my cowardice. Take me instead." The shadows surged at her, a wave of darkness crashing over as she stood firm against their onslaught. "No. I will not bow to you," she cried defiantly. The candles flickered violently, their flames roaring back to life, uneasy but fierce. Suddenly, the ledger clattered shut, silencing the names, the shadows quaking in notification of her fury. "Emily," the voice turned sharp, cracking through the air. "You think you can summon power? You think you can make demands? You have only begun to understand the depth of this darkness." And with that, the figure lunged forward, a rush of shadows that pressed in on Emily. She could feel its breath, cold and rancid, creeping closer. Just before she could be consumed, a light blazed, a blinding flash that pushed against the darkness. Emily closed her eyes, feeling it pulse through her, a force both terrifying and exhilarating. When she opened them again, the corridor was transformed. The candles cast a warm glow, illuminating the faces of frightened children all around her, their eyes wide with wonder. You are here to save us?" one of them whispered, reaching out. "Lily?" Emily felt the hope surge through her. But as she stepped forward, palm outstretched, the flickering flame extinguished, plunging her into silence. The children faded away into shadows, leaving only the weight of the ledger heavy in her grasp. "No!" she shouted, panic flooding her veins. But the air shimmered, and the figure reappeared, its elegant figure still holding that twisted grin. Did you think it would be so simple? It hissed as darkness swirled around them. You will learn, dear Emily. You will learn that not all sacrifices are equal. You must choose again. Their lives or your own sanity. Emily's mind raced, torn between the children's desperate eyes and the lurking terror of what she might become. In that trembling moment, a truth slashed through her confusion: she was running out of time. What's the cost? She shouted. Before the figure could reply, the temperature dropped, and the air thickened. Emily sensed that the clock was ticking. Who would she lose? Who would she save? As shadows danced hungrily around her again, she felt an unmistakable chill crawl down her spine. Would she join the ledger? Or find a way out before it was too late? With every flicker of candlelight, the choice loomed ahead, dark and tangled. And she had one chance left. Can you break the curse? She asked, her voice trembling. The figure merely chuckled, a sinister sound that echoed like death. You'll find out soon enough. As the darkness surged once more, Emily braced for the next revelation. What would be asked of her next, and at what cost? Emily's heart raced, the weight of the ledger pressing against her chest like a boulder, stifling her breath. The figure loomed in the dark, its unsettling presence a reminder of the impossible choices ahead. Shadows twisted and writhed, hungry for a slice of her fear, hungry for her very soul. The flicker of the candles warmed the air, but only momentarily before succumbing to the encroaching frost of despair. What do you want from me? She shouted, her voice echoing against the stone walls. Her bravado wavered, replaced by the cold reality of her situation. The figure took a step closer, its ghastly grin threatening to swallow her whole. Do you not understand? You stand at the precipice, dear Emily. The barrier between life and death trembles. You've awakened forces well beyond your ken. Each word dripped with malice, as if the shadows themselves conspired in the figure's delight. The ledger's pages began to stir, the names of lost children whispering in a choir of agony. They were beckoning her, demanding she carry their burden. Choose wisely, lives hang in the balance, the figure taunted, its voice intertwining with the anguished whispers. Emily couldn't stand it. I refuse to play your game. She shrieked, the words tearing from her throat. I won't sacrifice another. Not again. And yet, it's your very strength that fuels the darkness. Your defiance forges the chains that bind them. It leaned closer, the stench of decay wafting from the shadows around it, clinging to her skin. You think you can outrun despair? You think hope will shield you? No. I will save them. She retorted, her resolve flickering like the dying candlelight, but she was determined to keep it alive. The room dimmed. Darkness engulfed the edges of her vision, corners whispering secrets. She felt a bone-deep sense of dread that clawed and tore at her insides. Time itself felt sluggish, as if the very moment held its breath. Very well, sacrifice, the figure hissed, its voice dripping with ominous joy. What will you give up? A fragment of your sanity, perhaps? Maybe a memory dear to you? As Emily struggled against the tide of despair washing over her, fragments of her childhood flickered before her eyes. Laughter echoed, bright and mocking moments she had cherished now slipping away into the black, leaving shadows in their place. Your fear for theirs so delicious, it murmured, as if savoring each word. But perhaps a taste of what it's like to lose control. I can show you, dear Emily. In an instant, the shadows screamed her name, a cacophony of longing and despair that pierced her heart. The overwhelming sensation pushed her down, threatening to drown her. Stop it. She gasped, clutching her head as memories threatened to unravel her. Release them, dear Emily. Or become one with the ledger. A thudding echoed in the distance, pulling her attention. The sound grew louder, relentless. A door rattled against its frame, and she could hear whispers on the other side. It was the children. No, they were more than that. They were calling for her. Help us. They cried, their voices echoing through the heavy air, breaking through the suffocating silence. Emily, trembling, sent a desperate plea toward the dark figure. "What do I need to do?" Laughter erupted, a cruel symphony of delight. "You play right into my hands, sweet Emily. Face the truth you dread. Your destiny awaits. Not all light can save you." And with that, it vanished, leaving her alone in the dark corridor, drenched in dread. Just when the weight of despair felt insurmountable, a glimmer pierced the shadow. Emily stumbled forward, drawn to the flicker. But the voices surged again, more urgent, more terrified. "They're coming for you, for all of us." Before she could grasp the reality of their words, the atmosphere shifted once more, thickening with a foreboding presence. Whispers turned to wails, and she could feel something building in the dark, a reckoning. "What have you done?" Emily screamed, panic gripping her throat as the shadows writhed. The darkness felt like it was pulling her in, while the voice of the figure slithered back through the gloom. "You made your choice, dear Emily. Now face the consequences." As a surge of cold enveloped her, suffocating and dark, Emily braced for the inevitable. She could almost see the shapes of the children swirling around her, their specters lit by a dim, ghostly glow. Suddenly, she realized, what if she could rewrite the ledger? What if she could turn the tide? But would that come at another price? The air crackled with energy, the shadows swirling in anticipation. Emily's breath hitched. What was she willing to gamble now? And could the shadows be bent to her will before it was too late? Emily gasped as the weight of the shadows pressed against her, like an anchor threatening to pull her into the depths of despair. Each child's face loomed in her mind, their voices merging into a haunting symphony of pleas. Thoughts whirled like a tornado, ravaging each corner of her consciousness. She couldn't allow herself to be lost, too. Not when the stakes were so painfully clear. Enough. She shouted, a surge of defiance breaking through. This ends now. The dark figure, that twisted reflection of her deepest fears, reappeared, shrouded in a cloak of malice. The air thickened, electric and charged, as if every inch of the corridor held its breath. "Oh, sweet Emily," it cooed, voice dripping with delight. "Do you think you can simply choose not to play? The ledger has chosen you." "No," she cried, voice gaining confidence. "If it must be my choice, then let me rewrite the rules. This ledger holds names, but it doesn't define their fates. I can change that." Their eyes locked, the figure's wicked smile faltering for just a moment. "You truly believe you have the power?" It stepped forward, shadows swirling at its feet. "What will you sacrifice to change their fate? You know the cost." The whispers crescendoed again, drawing nearer, tighter around her heart like a vice. "I'll sacrifice my own memories," she declared, each word filled with an unyielding ferocity. "Erase my existence if it will save them, my sanity, my past, everything. Just let them go." The figure's laughter filled the chamber, resonating like thunder. "But you won't be able to carry the burden of their loss if you sacrifice yourself, will you? Reality would shatter with your fading name." Silence, then. The air seemed to thrum. Emily felt their presence, the children, all the names trapped and forgotten. The only way to save them was to destroy the binding of the ledger, to wrestle her own self from the darkness and find a way to bring their memories to light. "Enough games," she whispered, summoning every ounce of courage. "If rewriting the ledger is what I must do to break the curse, then I will rattle it to its core." Racing back to the altar, the ledger in her trembling hands began to shift, colors swirling upon the pages, letters rearranging beneath her touch. "Release them!" Emily shouted, and with that, the entire chamber erupted with power. The shadows snarled and hissed, tendrils of darkness writhing away from her determination. "All the children!" she yelled. "Names written in sorrow must not define them anymore. You are free." A blinding light poured from her heart into the ledger, illuminating the darkness, the pages flipping rapidly, a whirlwind of ink and shadow. Suddenly, the cries turned to whispers of hope, and the faces she cherished glimmered in the glow. Her daughter, Lily, the children she never knew but felt deep in her bones. Emily. Lily's voice rose above the fading echoes, sweet like spring. Mommy, we're here. The shadows dissolved, faces materializing, their expressions shifting from horror to illumination, hope blossoming against the night. The ledger cracked and splintered, shards flying through the air like stars against an infinite canvas. The figure reeled back, its twisted grin evaporating, chaos filling its place. No. No. It screeched, the darkness bottling inside itself, grasped by panic. Your power is nothing against love. Emily shouted, feeling the warmth radiate from her heart, her memories the ones worth keeping. You cannot contain them. You will wither away into oblivion. With a final fierce push, she thrust the remnants of the ledger into the darkness that surrounded her. The light exploded forth, illuminating every shadow, chasing them back into the void from whence they came. The figure screamed, its form disintegrating, echoes of pain surrounding it, and then it was gone. In an instant, Emily felt the gripping fear release, her body warm. She collapsed to the ground, tears spilling down her cheeks, shaking. Lily. She cried, hands brushing the air, searching for something tangible, and there she was, wrapped in shimmering light. Mommy. Lily laughed, her smile beaming and pure. The other children joined, each face familiar, their laughter ethereal and full of joy. Thank you, Mommy. They cheered together, enveloping her in warmth, an embrace richer than any memory could offer. With quiet wonder, Emily stood and twirled, feeling the vibrancy of life rush back to her. She turned, the broken ledger finally releasing its hold, fading into the ether. You're all free, she whispered, overwhelmed with gratitude. In that moment, the pressure of the darkness vanished. The sun began to rise, a bright dawn spilling through the once choked corridors, illuminating the church in golden warmth. Light spilled over everything and, in triumph, Emily knew she had found redemption, not just for herself, but for all the lost souls she had fought so desperately to save. Standing with renewed purpose, she smiled wide, knowing there would always be whispers of the past, but now they were echoes of laughter not tinged with fear. Hand in hand, they stepped toward the light, leaving the shadows behind as they ventured into a new day filled with promise and hope. Let us go home, Emily said, and together they returned to the world, reborn. This is the moment you've been waiting for. Now I need you to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are coming your way. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm, because every click counts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this conclusion, and let us discuss what's next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word. You need to show your support for this community. And your engagement makes all the difference. Thank you, and stay tuned.